move on up to Form 4. And then we were doing an exam called KJSE. So I did that one. Now you can map out why I was telling you, yes. So I did that one, and I passed, and then I dropped. I went back home for 1 year. Then I joined another Arambe Secondary School after 1 year, and then I got Division 1. Then I dropped. I'm fast tracking because it's a long story. I'm cutting and pasting so that I just give you a story. So I dropped out because my brothers and sisters who are following me were repeating so that I moved up to them. So I went to Bungoma town to sell newspapers at around Kandui town. And then one of my customers, Mr. Indimuni, was so much interested in how I was keeping records. So he said, Kijana, how far did you go in your studies? I said, Form 4, Division 1. Have you tried primary teachers college? He said, no, because I have nobody to assist me. He said, when you bring next time the newspaper, I will give you the form. That's how I entered Mosoriot Teachers College in Nandi to pursue P1 course. And in orientation, I'm sorry I'm taking some time, but you may tell this story to somebody else. In orientation, and that's why I tell my students and my relatives, please attend orientation. We were told that we know you are all mixed. And starting here does not mean ending. He pointed at some people who were tutors and said they were here in 1970 and they took fine art, business, that music, and now they are here teaching. I saw myself. By then, there was a tutor who was ready to coach us through Associated Board of Royal Schools of Music London exams, and I joined. So I moved by then. When I finished second year, I had A-level standard. So I went and registered on my way home, A-level, and got 9 points, and combined with the music A-level, ABRSM, I landed at Kisi College, which was training teachers. And that's how I did my diploma. And you can now connect the dots. Utafiti Foundation is found at www.utafitifoundation.com. It's a big website. It has a physical platform in Eldoret on 1 acre land with machines which can print over 5,000 books in a week. It started from humble backgrounds. We are the ones who are dealing with the recognition for prior learning program. You know about that. It was recently launched by His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, and we won the tender genuinely. They didn't know me. They just, yeah. So we do a lot of work, and we can do even more. I'm glad that you came so that you give me a chance to tell you a little about myself. My telephone number, I don't want you to write me on it. Yes. You have it in this. Yes, in this, yeah. But you can write if you want, 0722 313515. I'm glad to have worked with Professor Lombo. And I take this chance to thank him, honestly, for trusting me beyond my expectations. He is another person that has trusted me, apart from Professor Otengi, who was in University of Nairobi, I think meteorology department, that set his project and paid $500,000 to publish his and print his book, and up to now, I have never met him. Thank you for listening to me, and welcome to work with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let us bring Professor to address us. Why this book? The man himself, Professor Lombo.
Thank you, Professor Mutua, good friend of mine. In my other life. I met Professor Mutua, and or he met me. I didn't know he was there. And then I go to America. He says, "Oh, you're here. I know you. How do you know me?" And he cited an incident, which, if I explain well, Dr. Lewa, not Professor Lewa, but Dr. Lewa, will remember. That's Dr. Lewa. We have, excuse my, okay, you are told that we are called what? Bushmen in middle school. But Americans have a term when you want to show that somebody is close to you and you grew up together. You know what they call them? No? Homeboys. So I have a few of my quote unquote homeboys, and the Professor Wambua happens to be one of them. I'm saying this with a lot of I want to humbly say this, Professor Excellency Kibwana, I saw you when you were in standard 7, so you can also qualify for a homeboy. And if they are homeboys, then they should be homegirls, right? Yeah, and before we go to the homegirls, it's actually Professor Lewa. He was a homeboy. We sang the choir together in the church. And then my homegirl, my classmate in standard 7. So we go very far with some of you. And then others who are kind of included in the homegirl boys group would be my brother Kisuke and his wife Connie. Yes, and then I'm trying to recognize you in an interesting way. Then later, I got to know Dr. Wambua, who happens to be a relative as well. Yeah, the ones who are going to speak, I'm not going to take a lot of time to talk about them, but I'm so proud that I taught a professor who is in the house today. He was my student, Professor Kansa. That's one of the best students I've ever met. And it's not a joke. I told Professor Ogua about you, just the same thing. And I'm looking around. Then we have relatives, and there's my niece, Mercy. There is Liz is out there, and Liz is like my daughter, Pastor Kyoko's daughter, and then the lady at the door is my sister Agnes, and then the gentleman who tried to recognize you. It's actually my brother, it's Kaso Simba. On the firstborn is the lastborn, but it's like he's my son. He hangs around more with my kids than with me. And he was very gracious to come from UK just to come and help us launch this. We're continuing to recognize you. Of course, we have our and my good friend. We worked in another place, Mr. David Kalalia, very, very welcome. Yeah, I'm getting the names of those I've not recognized. But why the book? The book attempts to answer a question on how school dropouts in Kenya could be given a second chance. And as a writer, I have seen the perpetual poverty that continues with the school dropouts. A father drops out, and how likely is it that his children will go ahead in school? It's almost zero, right? So it becomes it's a cycle. And I thought I could address that. Coming from my other life, I know there are Christians here, and they wonder whether you have been a reincarnation and all that. Because when the Indians talk of other life, is when you were a cow, and now you're a human being. Not talking about that. Talking of some of the things I've done. And I was involved in the communities back in Kibwezi. Professor knows about that. And I didn't know. People living in Nairobi may not know that somebody would go to an oil seller, for cooking, and just buy a spoon of oil, Kimbo, to go and cook that day. You know that happens? Yes. That was pathetic when I saw that. It's because of poverty. And they've made it their own way. But that's an exception rather than the norm. And therefore, when I thought of going back to school, curriculum development, methodology, and all that, what teachers, what is taught. Well, people can specialize in. In US, the biggest thing is now